Well, dear friends of the José Manuel H Garage channel, we have finished the spotless ZZR 1100 Model D. It goes to our friend Paco. He has been waiting for it for months. It took me 5 months to finish it. As you can see, it is spotless, better than new. Absolutely everything has been done in this process of restoration and reconditioning of the bike. Valve adjustment, complete carburetor cleaning. I said complete carburetor cleaning with ultrasound. Carburetor synchronization with a vacuum gauge, valve adjustment, as we said. Oil change, of course the engine, oil filter, the entire crankcase has been removed, the entire crankcase has been cleaned, the suction cup from all the years this bike has had. It is more than 30 years old, and to leave it perfect is new. You have seen all this in the previous videos. The fins have been removed. The cooling circuit has been completely cleaned, new coolant. New spark plugs, new air filter. The transmission kit is phenomenal on this bike, so all that was needed was to tension and grease the transmission, and a new fuel tap. And as you know, all these bikes, all bikes, when they're a few years old, the thing that deteriorates the most is the rubber. The expensive and costly part of doing a good refurbishment and restoration of the bike is updating all the rubber. So, for that, the entire clutch pump kit, the clutch master cylinder kit, everything is documented in the videos we've seen. The clutch pump and brake pump were also cleaned with ultrasound, the clutch fluid was changed, and the front and rear brake fluids were changed. The brake pump rubber kit was also changed. We didn't have a good feel for it. We worked hard to get a good feel for it. To do this, we have completely reconditioned the front and rear brake calipers, changing them, cleaning them with ultrasound, and then changing both the retainers and the dust covers. The brakes have been left with perfect, ideal feel. The front right brake caliper has also been changed because it hasn't had many faults on these bikes that break over time. The starter button has also been redone. The exhaust system has been completely restored. It's like new. Getting a bike from these years with the original exhaust kit is not easy at all. These are original and perfect. Brakes, brake pads, everything, phenomenal. A job that requires a lot of care. It has been perfectly carbureted, more than 5 months of work, and as you can see, this bike is spectacularly beautiful. The look of this bike was a special edition that came with the Kawasaki chrome here on the tank in this impressive blue. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Remember that this bike was legendary. Well, it's still legendary and mythical because it can reach over 300 kilometers per hour. The first one to reach over 300 kilometers per hour in series production for sale to the public. It's really beautiful, spectacular. The entire front fender has been reinforced. These bikes also had the design that made it easy for the front fenders not to last very long. Everything has been reinforced, a huge job, and you can see, it's impeccable. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. As I said, all the filters, all the fluids, all the adjustments have been changed. The engine runs like clockwork. It took a lot of effort to fine-tune the carburation so that it works well, cold starts, hot starts, and everything is perfect. The clutch feel is perfect, the brake feel is perfect, a huge job. You can't see it later with a complete cleaning of the entire bike. It has no rust, no grease, nothing. In other words, it's spotless. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a rocket. And as you can see, the bike is spectacular. Okay, friends, now we're going to take the bike for a spin. Come with us so you can see how it goes on mountain roads. We're going to go up the Navacerrada Pass. We're going to do a little bit of highway riding. We're also going to take some photos and that's it. It's amazing. Paco, you're going to take home a real gem. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to end up with a ZZR Model D, a ZZR 1100 Model C, a GPZ 900. A GPZ 1100 and a Tomcat in my collection. Those are the ones I want to keep in my collection because they're all the bikes from that era that I love. More or less the same engine configuration. They're not the same but very similar. But I have some left because I bought several at the time, and I have some left that I need to recondition or rehabilitate. It usually takes me about 3 months or so because I do it with all the free time I get and it involves a lot of work. More or less 100 hours of work, rehabilitating and reconditioning a bike like this to leave it as good as new when it came out of the factory, in perfect working order. Well, of course, with the aesthetic signs that it may have from previous use, but from a mechanical point of view, it's just like it just left the factory. In other words, everything is perfect. My compression, oils, filters, fluids, adjustments, etc., as you know. So if anyone is interested in any of these, whether it's a ZZR 11100 Model D or Model C or the Tomcat or GPZ 1100 or the GPZ 900, I specialize in that. These are the bikes that I love, I know them inside out. If you are particularly interested, write to me at the channel's email address elgarajejoseManuelh@gmail.com. And tell me if you are interested in any of them and we can see if we can agree on how to do it, or if you have any of these in particular that you want to bring back to life, we can also do that, okay? I am quite slow because I can only do it in my free time. But as you can see in all my videos, I am absolutely precise, conscientious, and until everything is perfect, brake feel, clutch, everything, fine carburation, etc., well, I am not satisfied and I do not finish it until everything is correct. This one in particular, it is already registered as historical, therefore it can be used in all areas. In all major cities. It is truly wonderful. Come on, let's take a ride on the bike.
Hola amigos, vámonos. A disfrutar el trabajo de 5 meses. Bueno, nada amigos, vamos a disfrutar del trabajo de 5 meses, aunque la moto va para Paco, última prueba para que vea cómo va y yo disfrutarla también, que me lo he ganado por este trabajo tan exhaustivo y tan flipante. Nos vamos a ir por el puerto de Navacerrada. Voy con mi hijo Dani detrás, que quería hacer una vueltita en la moto, así que vamos dos. Hoy es domingo y el problema es que los domingos hay demasiado tráfico. Con este traficazo, amigos, es complicado que te enseñes cómo va la moto, pero bueno, es lo que hay. El problema es que esta carretera, que es la que va de Navacerrada a Villalba, en bajada no hay ningún punto para poder adelantar. veáis es que va como un tiro esta moto, macho. Es que es una cosa que es espectacular. Es un auténtico flip y se disfruta, y es que no es ni medio normal. Acelera bien en todas las marchas, tiene fuerza, desde primera hasta sexta puedes hacer lo que quieras, cuesta arriba, cuesta abajo. Frena bien, la suspensión va bien. Lo único que le falta a esta moto, que es lo que le trata de hacer Paco, es los dos neumáticos, delantero y trasero, que yo siempre eso como los neumáticos ha visto el consumidor. Yo casi especialista lo que se ponen, yo cuando termino un proyecto siempre quien se va a quedar con la moto es el que decide qué neumáticos le quiere poner y a su gusto. Porque cuando he decidido yo, luego al final es como una especie de o de pérdida de tiempo o de doble trabajo, porque igual la persona justo esa marca o esa modelo de neumático no le gusta tanto, entonces lo suyo, y ya he aprendido que eso es lo mejor, es una vez que está terminada la moto, que la persona que se va a quedar con ella decida qué neumático le quiere poner. Estoy súper orgulloso y feliz con ese trabajo que he hecho. O sea, una moto que ha estado más de 12, 13, 15 años calada, no sé cuánto, y que no iba, precisamente por eso, por no haberla hecho caso en tanto tiempo y todo lo que significa haber estado tanto tiempo parada. Buena porque no se desgasta, pero malo porque hay que ponerla al día y eso es un trabajazo impresionante. La que me viene encima, ajustada y tal, y es que va perfecta. O sea, va perfecta, ni una holgura, ni un sonido raro, nada. Parece nueva. Y es de 1993 y estamos en el 2025, o sea que tiene 32 años. Impresionante. Flipante. Ahora vamos a coger la autopista. Pues aquí vamos en el bolio. Hoy hace mucho viento, pero es que en esta moto, como está tan bien carenada y tan bien protegida, claro, 140 de marcador, y es que vamos a punta de gas, o sea, a puntita de gas. No le digáis que no es un escándalo como va. Vale, fino. Adelantamiento a este coche y vale. la verdad no sé qué más deciros de lo bien que va esta moto. O sea, es que yo con las ZZR reducir lo flipo. Son como de otro universo. Igual este vídeo pone la pasión por las Kawasaki, pero es que en los años 90 las cosas se hacían muy bien. No importaba la reducción de costes de producción y leches. Era calidad, y a ver quién hacía la moto más bestia, con independencia de los costes de producción. Es una flipada cómo va. Estamos en una cuesta hiperpronunciada. Estamos subiendo por el puerto de los Leones. Y es que esta moto ni se entera, es que le da exactamente igual todo. Voy todo el rato a punta de gas para no quedarme sin puntos. Y al límite de que me quite puntos. Estoy flipando en colores, chicos. Mirad cómo suena, es que es impresionante, macho, y mirad cómo acelera. Aquí tenemos un radar. Y es que lo flipo en colores, macho. Tu guayitita, tu que te cagas, se engancha que te cagas. Claro, sé cómo va, es que está el suelo un poquito mojado y por ahí yo me corto un poco cuando está un poco mojado. Flipante. Como sube, qué escándalo, macho. Se encanta como ruge esta moto. Entonces muy escandalosa, va bien lo contrario, pero mirad, me encanta. Y ¡épale! Aquí estamos ya en el Alto de los Leones, pasamos de provincia de Madrid a provincia de Segovia, cambiamos de comunidad autónoma, de la comunidad autónoma de Madrid a la de Castilla-La Mancha, pero nos vamos de regreso. Es que el tacto de todo, yo nunca había dejado una moto tan fina como esta, nunca. Las había dejado finas, pero con esta en la que todos los tactos de todo, embrague, freno, punto del carburador, todo tan perfecto. No soy consciente de haberlo dejado también nunca la moto así. Claro, pero también es verdad que las horas y años de experiencia, más la intensidad, la cabezonería, la obsesión y la pasión, todo va sumando para cada vez hacer las cosas mejor. disfrutando como un enano.
The Kawasaki ZZR is a bit like the marriage of Beauty and the Beast. Because beneath this elegant body that hesitates between sport and GT, there is indeed a fiery temperament. Make no mistake, these curved shapes, its curves, and this generous seat try to make the ZZR pass for what it is not, that is to say, a dealership machine. If you look further, you will discover clues that do not deceive and betray the temperament of this beast, such as the extra-wide radio tires, the all-aluminum frame, or the braking system that uses a 250mm disc at the rear and 320mm discs at the front, equipped with 4 piston calipers. Finally, just before getting on the handlebars, if you still haven't figured out who you are dealing with, a simple glance at the superb dashboard with its speedometer graduated up to 320 will explain who you are dealing with. There's no point in beating around the bush. With a top speed of 250 km per hour and a 400 meters sprint time of 10.7 seconds from a standing start, the ZZR 100 is the fastest and most aggressive 100 horsepower engine on the market today. Its water-cooled 1052 CMC 4-cylinder engine has undergone a restriction for once, which isn't too catastrophic in terms of feel. It develops 102 horsepower at 8,500 revolutions per minute and a torque of 10.3 meters kilogram at 7,000 revolutions per minute. These figures aren't the best in absolute terms, but they do give it a slight advantage over the competition in practice. On the downside, this health comes at the cost of painful brutality in normal use and a lack of power at very low revs. Clearly, the Kawasaki ZZR 100 isn't made for cruising, but prefers to be driven at a fast pace. On small roads, the braking power and the precision of the chassis almost make you forget the monster's 233 kilograms dry weight. Agile without being vague, the ZZR 100 only shows its limits at very, very high speeds. At that point, it becomes downright physical to ride, and its great aerodynamic finesse is paid for by its high sensitivity to wind and, above all, by protection unworthy of a Grand Tourer. A high bumper option is essential, even if it risks losing a few kilometers per hour and increasing fuel consumption, which is otherwise extremely reasonable since this brilliant engine only drinks 7L on average and 14L at most. Ultimately, the Kawasaki ZZR 100's biggest flaw is certainly that it hides its true personality. Although more comfortable than the 92 model, the new version is more at home in the sports category than in the GT category. It can give a lot, but since you don't get anything for nothing, it also demands a lot from its rider to be exploited to the extreme. It's a far cry from the Honda CBR 900, but it's also a far cry from the Honda CBR 1000. Let's just say that the big kawaii is somewhere between the two. That doesn't stop it from finding its own clientele, even if at 62,841 francs, this characterful motorcycle isn't exactly cheap.